wrong here. But there it is. And the advanced spiritual person, how does one become an advanced spiritual person? Does it require a lot of knowledge or some arduous practice of self-denial through beating yourself up or sitting in the cold for hours, meditate? I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. The advanced spiritual person is the person that allows this moment to be. Oh, is that it? Allows this moment to be, because why should I allow this moment to be? Because it is. Because it always is as it is now. Yeah, but it shouldn't. But it is. Yeah, but this is not how it should feel. It still is. Oh, yeah. And then you see that you go through life, or you have been going through life. A lot of your life has been an inner no. And the egoic mind-made entity thrived on the no. It thrives on having enemies. It doesn't need to go as far as to make you into a suicide bomber. It could. That's an extreme manifestation of the same thing. It thrives on that. And then, of course, it says, I can't allow this to be. There's so many things in this world that should not be. There are so many things in this world that are unjust, unfair, so much suffering, so much. Yes, of course, that is true, that there's an enormous amount of suffering in this world, and in yourself. Suffering is present in every human being in different forms. In the affluent West, there is an enormous amount of suffering too, not perhaps on the material level, mental, emotional suffering. And the illusion is to believe that when I allow this moment to be, I will become ineffective, I will become passive, and nothing is going to change anymore. I will be stuck with this dreadful moment for the rest of my life. So to get rid of this dreadful moment, I've got to fight it. And then, of course, the next moment, which is the same as this moment, dreadful again. That state, and here we have an approach, another perspective on what it means to be fully awake here and now. We pointed already to the helpful fact that you can feel the inner body as you sit here, even now. That takes you out of the stream of thinking and thinking. And then you can become conscious of this moment instead of running away from it or internally denying it, fighting it. You can become conscious of how things are right now. This is how things are. And you allow, then what is could be a reaction inside yourself. It could be an old and then you see it and don't make it into a problem, and you watch the emotion that comes with it. So there it is. You allow that. So you don't become an advanced spiritual practitioner by achieving something, total control of all my inner states and total control of external conditions. I am in total control of my life. This is of course the ego feels I need to stay or lie awake in bed all night because I have important problems to think about. If I don't worry, my life is going to fall apart. I'll be irresponsible. Or as one famous actress said, I read in the paper some while ago, who by the way is always ill, she said about some situation, she said, I wouldn't be human if I didn't worry myself sick about it. And worry is identification with thought. Useless thought, a lot of it, of course. Even psychologists who are not interested in spiritual matters have recognized that 95% of our thinking is pretty repetitive and useless. So, and one way of stepping out of it, that entire conditioned movement needs reactivity, needs opposition, needs resistance. It's a mind-made entity. So when now the possibility arises of living in a different way. And if it were not happening already, I could not make it happen to you. The fact that you are here and recognize something, some truth that you already know, that is already happening inside you, that means you don't need convincing. You recognize the fundamental truth of living, that there is the possibility now. Perhaps there wasn't before for most humans. There is the possibility now of living in alignment with the suchness of this moment. Inner alignment. And that is the state out of which, amazingly, effective action comes. Because the fact that you are here and recognize something, some truth that you already know, that is already happening inside you, that means you don't need convincing. You recognize the fundamental truth of living, that there is the possibility now, perhaps there wasn't before for most humans, that there is the possibility now of living in alignment with the suchness of this moment. Inner alignment. And that is the state out of which, amazingly, effective action comes. Because an intelligence that is greater than the conditioned movement of thought is suddenly able to operate in and through you. And so that state of complete alignment with what the Buddha actually called the suchness of things, which is always what is here and now. I call it the form that this moment takes. This moment, of course, is the only moment there is. Is it? No, I don't agree with that. There is a next moment. Okay. That was somebody's mind. There is only this moment ever. Nothing could be outside of it. Nothing could happen outside of it. It has to be now for anything to be. Being is now. Life can only be now. You could remember something that happened. How was it possible that this happened? It happened in the field of now. It happened when it was now, and I remember it now. Now is the only reality it has. And the future, there seems to be so much of it, until there's very little. And that can be frightening. Your future shrinks. Your past grows. And you are gradually pushed out of your life. On one level, past and future seem so real. Time, past and future. On one level, yes, you can't deny it, that there is such a thing. Time, everything passes so quickly. It's fleeting. Gone. Gone. My childhood. Gone. My first marriage. Gone. Second marriage. Gone. And so please stop, you say to time. I don't want to be dragged along this stream of time towards my inevitable doom. But you can't stop it. Also, on one level, time seems to be to dominate everything. And yet, on another level, past and future don't exist. There's only now, always now. One can't really argue with that your life is always this moment. Your life cannot not ever be this moment. So on one level you have what appears to be very real, and yet it's always now. Let's stay with that fact, because this is a practical session, not philosophical. A discourse on time belongs somewhere else. There's a practical fact that it's always now. And if I'm never in alignment, or extremely rarely in alignment with now, then I means I'm out of alignment with life itself, which means the power that is inherent in life, the intelligence that is inherent in life, the beauty that is inherent in life cannot fully express itself through this contracted entity that spends most of its time, its nows, in now, needing to get somewhere else, the next moment, which is really only a thought. Future is a thought, a mind movement. So when we see that, and we also see another strange fact, that first we see there is only ever this moment. So you might as well make friends with it, since you haven't got anything else. But then, strange thing happens. People believe that the now is very short-lived. They think a now is only a brief thing. I think in one of the leaflets about this, our afternoon together, it said, spend an afternoon in the now. That will be the longest now you've ever experienced. But of course, yes, this is what this is about. Now, the fact that change happens continuously doesn't mean that there are many different nows. The form that this moment takes changes continuously. The field of now remains. Often things happen that are challenging in the now. It's strange. It is very strange that when you allow whatever form this now takes to be as it is, the deeper level of your being opens up. This is a miracle. When you see it in your life, how your life changes as you live in alignment with what is rather than against what is. That is the end of hundreds of thousands of years of conditioning, and you are stepping out of thought, because it is the movement of thought that judges continuously what is as not enough, not good, or needs more than this. The movement of thought, the thought-made entity, always needs more. I'm not full enough yet. Not complete yet. It never is. Where's the next thing that I can identify with? That's why people look so uneasy a lot of the time, because they're looking for the next thing to make their sense of self a bit more complete. A bit more, please. Oh, okay, more. And the more you can identify with. That's why people look so uneasy a lot of the time, because they're looking for the next thing to make their sense of self a bit more complete. A bit more, please. Okay, more. And the more is supplied by the next moment, which doesn't exist. It's a dreadful way to live. And you see another fact. For thousands of years, the Buddhists have already recognized that everything in this universe is interconnected. And now physicists also see that ultimately there are no isolated events or isolated phenomena. There is a web of interconnectedness that is the entire cosmos. It is all connected to everything else, not what appears to us as an isolated event is connected to the totality on deeper levels. And that is good to realize. And this brings us to the strange fact of the inevitability of this moment. Because the totality of the universe has brought this about. It happens because it cannot be otherwise. And then you allow it, you see that connectedness, and you allow what is to be. You bring a yes to it. Suddenly, and now I'm using words to describe something that is really beyond words. With this yes to what is now, something opens up, which I can only describe, and many of you already know, have had glimpses of it, or it's already very strongly present in your life. I can only describe as there is a sense of space around what happens when you allow it to happen. A spaciousness in which this event, and that is an inner sense of space, a spaciousness in which this event is happening. It could be, for example, the obnoxious behavior of some person close to you. She is doing it again. He is doing it again. Before it brought up the inevitable, and suddenly you see the inevitability of this moment. And suddenly you allow. And so the event comes, and there's the, or something breaks down, and you go, it's allowed. That's strange. There's the event, or let's say some dreadful noise happens suddenly. And usually there would be reaction. No, this shouldn't be. They should. Why don't they? And suddenly you allow it. Suddenly there is a space around it. A space around what happens. One could also call it a peace around what happens. And you can notice it particularly when you do this when something so-called unpleasant happens, and you allow it. There's suddenly a space around it, a larger context in which that happens. And that space is a space of peace around it. Some people had to be driven by life to an extreme form of suffering before that happened to them spontaneously inside. And in the midst of hell on earth, in the most dreadful conditions, something inside them stopped resisting this moment. And there was a vast sense of peace and space, despite the appearance of evil or badness in this moment. That is the inner shift, is not when you demand that the world should change. People have been demanding that for a long time. But allow the isness of things and see what happens then, because the allowing is the arising of the new state of consciousness. If it were not arising in you, these words would be meaningless. You wouldn't even, neither would you would not understand even what it means when I say allow this moment to be, or you would feel threatened by it, shout something and run out of the room. And so that is what in spiritual language is sometimes called surrender. What really is alignment, inner alignment with what is. Now, what that really means is, for thousands and thousands of years, human beings have been totally absorbed in what I sometimes call object consciousness. Their entire attention goes into thoughts that arise, often in reaction to things that happen. Every thought is an object in your consciousness and takes up your entire attention. And so people inhabit their entire life is crammed full with thoughts, object consciousness. This, now let's think about that, I'm thinking about this, and then the next thing, and then the next thought comes, which each thought absorbs your attention. Each thought is connected to the me thought form. No space. No complete absence of space. Just one thing after another. One thought after another. And what arises with the yes to what is space consciousness. Through the simple yes to now. And that is the new dimension of consciousness.